So what is the gospel? To put it simply, the gospel is hope. It's hope for our future. It's hope. It gives hope for our lives. It gives us purpose, direction. Without it, we are just going to go through this world floating and not have that hope. I've created this presentation for you so that you can kind of understand a little bit better what the gospel truly is and what you can do to understand and receive the gospel. So when God first created man, he took man and created him out of clay, and he wanted to make man in his own image, and he breathed life into him, creating him like him but not as the same as him. But he also gave man the free gift of choice, and that was because God didn't want to have a creature that loved him just robotically. He wanted him to be loved. God wanted him to love him out of choice. But because of that choice, God wanted to test man's love for God, and God gave Adam and Eve one simple task, and that was not to eat from the tree of knowledge. He said the entire garden is all yours. You can eat the fruit, but leave the tree of knowledge alone. Well, God allowed Satan to come in and allowed Adam and Eve to be tempted to see if they make the right choice. And unfortunately, as we all know, they did not. And when they did, when they took to buy the apple, they took sin and entered and presented it into our lives permanently. So that no matter if we were firstborn, or we're 80 years old, it's always going to be permanently staining our lives. And so God, because of this sin that was in man's life, had to expel him away from his presence out of the garden and permanently create a void because of the sin that was in Adam and Eve's lives. This sin is carried on, as I said, through generation after generation. And as man went through time, and trying to make better choices and do the right thing, unfortunately, the sin nature that's inside of us would start creating more and more blemishes on our lives. And this sin started becoming darker and darker in any man's life or woman's life. Until at the end of the day, when they looked into their lives, they would see this disaster, this darkness that's inside of them, and trying to figure out what in the world. How do I get rid of this darkness and find hope in my life? Well, God, throughout the Old Testament, was trying to create a way for Adam to be with him again, and the way he did that first was through animal sacrifice, which ended up being a temporary thing to wash away those sins once a year, if I remember right, just so that they could have that time of communion together. In hopes that the children of Adam and Eve, would start making the right choices, but ultimately they didn't. They just added more and more sin into their lives. So God created a different way of us to be with Him, and that was through His Son, Jesus Christ. When He was born into this world, He was perfect, and when He died in this world on the cross, He was perfect. He had no sin in His life, and He was actually tempted by Satan 3 different times to try to test Him, but He stood the tide. When He died on the cross, what He did was He allowed the way for man to be with God when He died, and that was through His sacrifice of cleansing of His blood, because He was the perfect sacrifice. So when we accept Jesus into our life, what He does in our lives is He starts taking little bits of that darkness and turning it more and more and more into light. And no matter how many times we make a dumb choice or wrong decision, and we create more and more chaos, it doesn't even matter, because Jesus is living inside, and as you can see, it doesn't stand. That purity is just continually cleansing our lives. So you're probably wondering how you get to this point, because when this person dies, he's going to be living with God in heaven, because now he's cleansed Jesus cleanses him with his blood. So that when God looks upon this individual when he dies, he's going to see nothing but pure heart, pure soul through Jesus. But how do you get here? We have to turn away from, my church uses the acronym ABC. We have to accept that we are sinners. We have to believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross and was rose again for our sins. And we have to commit our lives to following him. Not following our ways, but to turn completely around and start following Jesus Christ and his ways. So that is the basics. It's the hope for our lives. Christ made that way. Thank you.